Cool. So welcome everyone to the July 10th, 2020 Cluster API Provider for Azure meeting. Cluster API is a Kubernetes project. We also call it CAPZ. And the Cluster API Provider for Azure is also known as CAPZ, and that's its implementation for Azure Cloud. This meeting is open to the public and we're recording it. So we ask you please to abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct while you're here. Hopefully you've read that, but if you haven't, it basically boils down to everybody, please be welcoming and open, and let's respect each other and make sure everybody has time to speak. We have this meeting every other Friday, so the next one will be July 24th. I'm Matt Boersma, and I volunteered to moderate today, and I think James is going to do the real hard work of taking notes. If you want to pitch in the future, you can do either of those roles by just signing up in our agenda and notes document. For the future, I'll post a link to that. Hopefully everybody has it, but let's just make sure. Oh boy, and I can't find my Zoom controls. Never mind. Someone else can post the link in chat. So first, is anyone new? I don't think we have anyone new, but if anybody wants to introduce themselves and say why they're here, this is the time to do that. Or if anyone from the old guard wants to reintroduce themselves, that would be fine too.
I'll just say
I think
hi, everybody.
Hi,
I don't
David.
know if I've ever been here. Hi, everyone. I'm Jack.
Oh, Jack.
Hey, welcome, Jack. Good to see you, Nader. Good to see you, Carlos. Mr. Seeley, also good to see you. Great to see you all.
Jack, do you want to introduce yourself and say why you're here for anyone who may not know?
Sure thing. So, hi, everybody. Jack Francis. I work with a lot of the Microsoft folks on the Azure Kubernetes integration teams that design all these solutions for Kubernetes customers, for Azure customers, internal Microsoft customers. So I'm an engineer at Microsoft, working with David, Cecile, Matt. I can't see everybody because of screen sharing, and I'm on my iPad and I can't figure it out.
I'm right there with you. There's a cognitive burden switching between Zoom and Teams all the time that I'm not able to overcome. Great. So, and please go ahead and add your name to the attendee list so we know everybody who was here. That's in the document I just posted. And do we have any? Want to congratulate. I mean, I thought Nader and David were already maintainers and Carlos was as well, but I guess that's about to be official. So congratulations to new maintainers and reviewers. Yeah.
I completely missed that was up there. Oops, I just added it down there.
Oh, you did. Right on. Double congratulations.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, you want to say anything about that, Cecile?
Oh yeah, I just want to say I'm really glad to have all three as part of the reviewing team, and they've done really awesome work over the past few months. So look forward to getting more of their help on reviewing PRs and making CAPZ more awesome.
Next, I think we usually take a look at test grid. That looks good at the periodic. We have a few failures, and I'm not really sure if any of these are worth drilling into, but why don't you?
So we actually haven't done this in a while, so it's good you did this. We should probably get in the rhythm of checking those, but most of them are PR, like pre-submits, so it's not very accurate. Like it doesn't really give you a good view of the state of things. But you can look at the periodic ones, which are periodic conformance, periodic CAPI E2E. And those
the
are
E2E
running,
looks, yeah. The E2E looks good, but conformance had some failure yesterday and on the 7th. But I mean, overall, this looks pretty good to me. Retrieve, so some error retrieving logs, huh?
This can be some flaky. Or...
Yeah, do we want to drill farther into that or just keep an eye on it? I don't even know how to.
Not right now, but maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know how you.
This takes some time to.
Yeah.
To go.
I'll take a look after the meeting, but I think we should probably.
This concludes our flyover of the test grid, then I guess.
Yeah, we should maybe next
someone
time
wave their hands.
Assign someone when something is longer. Yeah.
Okay, but just at the high level view, it doesn't look like anything here rises to the level of we should pounce on that right now. Is that what you're saying? Okay, so let's move on. We'll look at the image pushes as well.
No, you can skip that. Yeah, we don't actually do those usually, but yeah, we should refresh the agenda.
I'm just following the script.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. And then we can review the project board next, or do we do that?
We're gonna do backlog grooming for
later?
30 minutes, so let's just keep that for Yeah, let's just get into discussion.
So unless anybody else has other announcements or anything that fits up here, we'll go into the discussion section. And we already congratulate ourselves for new approvers and maintainers. And so then the next, I put words in your mouth here, David, but it seemed like when we had a stand up the other day, you had a question we wanted to bring up here about how should we structure PR tests? Or not, it's Friday, we can skip it. But if you want to talk about that, I put it on the list. So is that a move on, thumbs up, or do you want to discuss?
I wasn't sure if you were finished up with your thought. Yeah.
I'm done.
So we have machine pools, we have machine deployments, we have a plethora of features. So we need to categorize the things that we would like to put into PR tests and things that we feel are okay for just periodic. And I wanted to gauge the other contributors' thoughts on what deserves to be where, and kind of more how do we approach this. I think Cecile, you and Vince who had worked on a testing doc, or was that you and Rita?
That was Nader, Ernest, and I. Nader,
Ernest, sorry, Nader. I couldn't recall who you were working with. So, do you want to give a short gist of what you came up with in the doc, what you all were thinking about?
Sure. I'll start, and Nader, let me know if you want to add anything. Or but I think we basically broke down into several categories, and there are unit tests, conformance testing, end-to-end testing, and periodic nightly builds. We decided to focus on end-to-end for now because that was where there's the most, I guess, the biggest gap for CAPZ. And for unit tests, we felt right now as a short-term action, we should start measuring the test coverage to basically add a more formal reviewing when we add new features to make sure that people are encouraged to add unit tests with new code. And so for end-to-end testing, we need to figure out which subset of end-to-end tests we want to run as pre-submits. Because these things can take a long time, we don't want to have too many in the pre-submit, but at the same time, we don't want to have too few that it doesn't catch regressions. So it's kind of a hard balance to find. And we were thinking we could have several jobs, several proud jobs, each running different cluster configurations so that they run in parallel. Which cluster configurations we want to test, that's still TBD, but that's the idea. And then the periodic job should be the superset of everything.
Nader, do you have anything to add there?
No, I think that covers it. We were just worried like the PR would take too long, like the running of the test would take too long. Already sometimes you have to run it again or something. So
that's a really great point. So how long is too long? Like what do we think is too long for a PR?
I think anything more than like 20, 30 minutes is too long.
I was going to say an hour, but maybe I'm more than an hour is obviously too long, let's say.
I would say an hour. It's good.
I think it'd be great to have like a baseline that is short, like 30 minutes, but then be able to add like optional jobs on top for more risky PRs. So either has like for now manual triggers, or even if we can be smart about it, have like certain paths in the code base trigger certain jobs. So for example, for the ones that are bigger, like we can run conformance on it to make sure that, you know, conformance takes like 2 hours, but it's worth it if the PR is, you know, considered risky or changing more things. What do you guys think about that?
I like that. Because you do have that balance there. We're trying to make sure development isn't impeded by testing, but you also want to ensure you're releasing a quality release, right? You want to make sure that that PR that you're accepting is high quality. I have been concerned a few times as a reviewer, reviewing PRs and not feeling like I have a safety net. Like to me, end-to-end tests are really our safety net, so that we can feel secure that we are accepting high quality PRs. I mean, beyond the superficial of, hey, the code looks good, the documentation is great, and stuff like that. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
So one of the things that I did in a former project was have kind of conditional testing for PRs based on kind of the path that it was being checked into, and then having kind of the larger, like full test suite running against a couple of the like main branches. So you might have one master and then one in kind of a branch that gets merged in at the end of every day, a branch that gets merged in at the end of every week, and then those get the more full featured test suite run against them. But that can get pretty complicated to maintain, which is the downside.
So you mean when you submit a PR or whatever, there'd be some logic or maybe some way of actually turning on parts of the suite?
Yeah,
on and off at that point?
Usually based on, it's not usually integration testing. It would be more kind of component testing, and then you would have that go into a daily branch or a weekly branch that actually runs the full test suite against it before it gets merged.
I think at the point we were talking about this and writing this document, we were more concerned of having the tests and having all the tests that we can at least trigger manually when we feel that we need to. And I don't think we have everything yet. So maybe we need to just make sure we have all the things and then figure out how to optionally run things or whatever based on, I don't know if Prow allows you, for example, to, if the PR is like X large or something, to run more tests or stuff like that. But I don't think we have all like the set of things that we would need to run anyway.
So I'm going to throw out maybe an odd take. I don't know that we need to cut up into a bunch of different cluster configurations and have many of them spinning up at the same time. What if we included in our base Proud template all the different types of nodes that we produce? So, for example, system user assigned, system assigned identities, different nodes, machine pool nodes, as well as AKS nodes, and we spin it all up at first, and then we start running our tests against it. So we have kind of a breadth of infrastructure within a test suite, and then we start executing tests against that infrastructure, as opposed to spinning up cluster, spinning down cluster kind of thing.
I think that's a great idea. For things that are like you can have more than one configuration within the same cluster. For some of them, though, you'll have to have two clusters. Like for example, VNets, like you can't have two different VNet configurations on the same cluster. But yes, that when we can do that, it's good to combine as many as possible instead of having many smaller ones. The other thing
Also,
I wanted to, go ahead.
I was just going to say, also you have to be careful of like test polluting, like one test adding stuff and the other test not needing to clean up. We'd have to be a lot more careful with cleaning up stuff.
The other thing I would like to see is, like, as much as possible, we should try to test things in unit tests, because if we're using end-to-end tests to test everything as like an excuse that we don't have good unit tests, that's not great. I think there are many things that we can test in unit tests, and we should still have the end-to-end integration test, but we should be able to test most of the logic until we make the Azure, like the actual Azure API calls in unit tests, right? And so those, like, we'll be able to test more things faster if we do that.
Yeah, I just, one practical, I mean, since we're just trying to, this is the approach that AKS Engine essentially takes, right? Is trying to do the kitchen sink and get the most bang for the buck you possibly can, given that it's expensive to start up one cluster. And I see Jack made some comments about that's problematic. Maybe he can explain more. But the only thing I was going to say is it seems like right now on each PR, we spin up a reasonable cluster with 3 masters and a node. And then we spin up this sort of degenerate cluster with just a single master. And maybe we should stop doing that configuration or add some nodes to it, like Cecile was saying, because that doesn't really get us anything. I think it was just so we could spin up the fastest possible cluster for a smoke test, but we should probably move beyond that.
Yeah, I think we need to get precise about what kind of clusters we're building up, what the manifest of those clusters are, you know, the bill of goods in there, and what features we're actually testing.
Are people using the raise hand feature? Because if you are, I'm totally oblivious to that. So it doesn't look like people are. So good. Cool. What else? Anything else to say about subsetting E2E? I mean, I think Nader's kind of right that maybe this is premature to worry about this until we have more E2E tests fleshed out, but definitely something to think about.
Agreed.
I would argue that all these discussion points can be formalized, and so maybe we should work toward, you know, integrating these things into the actual governance of the project as sort of first-class requirements. I'd love to contribute to that effort. Just basically documenting all these things that we're talking about.
So would you think that is just a documentation topic that we would put into a PR and start it as a living document as part of the project?
Yep, because that could be the first step. Yep.
So is that, we have anything else to say on this, or does that sound like a reasonable path
I
forward?
think we're good. We got a path forward.
Okay. Cool. Next topic was mine. So we kind of brought this up at the last meeting, but didn't really get anywhere. But basically, we merged some tests that I wrote in E2E that just use the client Go library to published deployments and stuff. And then Carlos has a nice PR out there for testing network policy that, or network configuration that's basically wrapping kubectl, which is an entirely valid way to go. So the question obviously comes up, is this a problem? Are we okay with doing tests in kind of slightly different styles? And if we're not, we can argue about which way to go.
Yeah, my question is, I don't know if there is a way using client Go to access a pod and run commands inside a pod. If there is a way, then we can do everything in Go client. Otherwise, we need to have both. And then the test need to decide which one is best to use.
Specifically for running a pod to test things? Or?
Yeah, for example, in the network tests, they create a pod that we can do in the client. But the next step is they create a pod, they access the pod and like make a curl to try to access another pod inside, like, and
yeah.
I think this is not possible in the client Go, right?
Well, I solved that in my PR by creating a job. And so that just does a curl. And so basically, you know, it tries 5 times. And if one of those succeeded, then that is considered good enough.
Okay.
And that worked okay. But if we need to do anything fancier, like if we want to make an actual sort of kubectl exec type call and get into the pod and do something at runtime, obviously that's possible in client Go, but I don't want to write that code. So, so at that point, kubectl would be arguably better.
But in the same, do we want to be showing out? And Ace just dropped a comment in there about Stack Overflow showing the code for executing a command via client Go.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, okay. So I wrote up the pros, so let me just go over those, and probably there's some other ones I didn't think of. But for client Go, some of the positives are, it looks to me similar to what CAPI is doing upstream, and so the code fits in a little cleaner to that. And you don't need to make sure, if we're shelling out the kubectl, we would want to make sure we're using the exact same version of kubectl as the server supports, because potentially there's incompatibilities there. And that can be a little bit tricky, especially if the test is upgrading Kubernetes itself, and then you want to start testing midstream with the newer version of kubectl. But those are solvable problems. And then the advantages of using kubectl are, I think the test code ends up being a little easier to read, or a lot easier to read. It could help us with just some straight up copy paste from existing AKS engine tests, because those wrapped kubectl. And it avoids the API compatibilities of using client Go, because with client Go, we're obviously just vending in one version of Kubernetes and then kind of crossing our fingers that it works with all the versions we're testing with, which generally it does. But then at some point, there'll be an incompatibility, and that'll be painful. So those are the trade-offs I thought of. But sorry, go ahead.
I'll place a vote that reuse AKS engine tests. I'm skeptical that that's an advantage. Is that actually a goal?
We have been using, since AKS engine got to a nice high level of E2E coverage, we've been using those tests as inspiration. Like some of that E2E requests that are out there are specifically referencing AKS engine code. But I don't know that.
Oh, really? So like literally being reused?
Well, I mean, I went through the load balancer test and used that as the inspiration to write the client Go version in CAPZ. I don't know if there's actually that much literal copy and paste that we can do, but it would make it a little easier.
Cool.
But as to the first question, I mean, are we okay? Because Carlos's PR has been out there for a while. We're probably just going to merge it, and then we'll have two sort of different styles of E2E tests. Are we okay with that, or do we consider that something we need to fix right away?
Yeah, I would say if we decide to go to the client Go, I can refactor my PR to support that. That's not a problem for me. But,
for the record, which PR are we talking about?
the network policies. So that we get.
Oh, network policies. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone here think we should not be using client Go? If it's possible to use it for everything.
Yeah, if we can use for everything, I vote to use client Go.
Yeah, that'd be my vote as well.
Mine too.
Okay, so maybe Carlos, you could get back to us like on Slack about how much, like taking a look at your PR and seeing what Ace shared and see if like how much work it would be to get it into or refactor it to use client Go.
I think I can do this in my weekend.
Oh, don't do the weekend. No.
Yeah, I said to Cecilia last time, right? It's my free time is the only time I have to work on stuff. And it's fun for me.
All right, well, if it's not a headache, I guess it sounds like that's the consensus, is we want to try and do client Go for everything. And then Jack had a comment about anticipating when client Go breaks on us.
So there's two different kinds of breakage there, right? There's like the client Go signatures change, and then there's also like the API types change. So I think for client Go breaks, they're less frequent generally. Like 118 was the first big one in a long time, I think. But the API types, I mean, there's a little bit more risk there, but if we are clever with discovery, maybe we can avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a way to do it without, I just wonder if it's literally like a, can't instantiate this version of the API call because I'm using this version of client Go. That was something that, say, 2 or 3 years ago was a real struggle. I'm not sure if Go mod has improved that or if we just didn't know what we were doing 2 or 3 years ago.
I will say that I've been shielded from some of this because I've been using the controller runtime client a lot, which does already do discovery out of the box to find the preferred version. So if you use like the pre-generated clients where you are specifying a version, that's hard-coded, right? So you need to switch which version you've specified for like apps v1 deployment because it's fully qualified in the pre-generated client.
Right. Okay. So I think the thing that you're using maybe didn't exist 3 years ago. So that's,
yeah, that's definitely true. That's definitely the case. Yeah. Exec doesn't really help there, but it's Core V1 anyway, so that one won't change too much. But yeah.
Yeah, Go mod is no help here because client Go is not of a major semantic version, and each updated version is still within the 0 major version. So there is nothing in the Go path which would allow us to differentiate between semantic versions.
Okay, cool. But if there's a client library that has sort of meta knowledge of all Kate's API versions, then that's our solution. That addresses my specific concern about the occasional breaking API changes.
And so that's the advantage of the controller runtime client, is it's not going to break necessarily.
Yeah, it basically will look for the I mean, so there are edge cases, right, where if you still try to really manually request like a deprecated API version, you'll end up in hot water, right? But if you're just requesting like a pod, like it'll generally do the right thing.
Yeah, but it sounds like those edge cases can be dealt with if-then statements in your test code. Yeah, cool. That we can do that.
Okay, I think that pretty much concludes that topic, unless anybody else has something to add. So now, unless we have other topics, we'll move over to backlog grooming. Which...
Yeah. So are you okay driving that, Matt, or I can
if you want to,
you'd
probably be a little more efficient, but
it's okay. Yeah, if you can go to the project board, at the bottom. And then also if you could open the milestones page from CAPZ, from the repo. So what we usually do in the meetings is we just go over the board and look over the in-progress tasks and the to-dos, and then add new issues to the backlog. But I think for this one, we wanted to do something a bit different to plan the next milestone, since it's been a while since last time. And so, yeah, if you take a look at the current milestones,
so
there's one
milestones on GitHub now.
Yep. So we planned this 0.5 thinking we were going to release 0.5 at the time where V1 Alpha 4 was still planned. That didn't happen. So we decided to match what CAPZ was doing and stay on 0.4 for now. So what I was thinking, and let me know if anyone has thoughts on this, but we should maybe close this one and then reopen a new one, add all the ones that were still not done in the new one, and then maybe prioritize by time this time instead of like by number. Well, that's what we did last time too, but have a short timeline instead of, this one was I think 3 months, but we could maybe do 2 weeks or a month. I'm not sure what people think. A month seems reasonable. So that way we can do like every other office hours. We have a new milestone, not sure. Any thoughts on this?
I like shorter. A month sounds reasonable.
Is that to make a release, or like is the milestone mean you should make a release every month, or what does the milestone mean?
That's a great question. It can be. It can also not be. I feel like we've mostly been doing releases independently of milestones. But
because every month would be too much.
You think it would be too often to make a release?
Like every month?
I feel like we've been doing releases pretty consistently every month, at least, no?
Okay, no, I'm not sure.
I mean, to me, I would use this mostly to, one, prioritize the work and know what issues we commit to, and then also help communicate what we're working on to people watching.
Nader, what was your concern with that? Was it more than just the amount of work that goes into a release, or were there other concerns?
No, it's not really a concern. It's just that I'm okay with it, but just like whoever is adopting this will have to like update every month. There might not be a lot of like big things that happen in that month, but it's not a big deal.
Well, if we have Carlos writing as much as he has been, there'll be a lot of stuff done.
Yeah.
I just feel like if I go look at a milestone and it's like 3 months away, that's sort of meaningless to my life. So I keep it shorter.
Yeah, but we could also do 1 month milestone and not release every milestone. Sorry, Nader.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm okay with the 1 month if everybody thinks it makes sense.
Justin, do you have any thoughts on that, on the milestone length? Or
I don't at the moment. I think it would be nice to kind of align our releases. Yeah, I don't have any kind of reasonable input at the moment.
Okay, let's just iterate. You know what? We don't need to. We can try something this month, and if next month it really didn't work, we can adjust. How's that? Cool.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's start with creating a new milestone.
I don't think I have the power to do any of this, Cecile, so maybe you'll have to.
Okay, didn't think of that. Okay, let me just, can I take over and share screen?
Yeah, that's probably, yeah.
Can you see the right screen?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we're about to release 046, right? So I think we can just call this 047 if we're trying to match this to a release. Is that good? But then if we need to release in between, it doesn't really make sense anymore. Or I can just call this 04X. Any thoughts?
That seems safer.
Yeah, X sounds good.
Okay, and then I'll put this for maybe 4 Fridays from now, or 3. Yeah, 3. That way it's in a month, but it's like the day of our office hours. And then, yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna move everything in here. And then close this one. How do I close it? Oh, here, no. Okay. So first of all, is there anything in here that we actually don't want to keep in the milestone?
There's one that's the E2E and example load one. I think is like should be closed. I think I put a comment in it because that was pretty old and the whole tests are now different. I don't think it's applicable anymore.
Perfect. Thanks. One question I have is this enhancement proposal. To me, it seems more like a long-term epic thing that we're not necessarily going to get done in the next month. But it's still at the top of our minds. Is it something we want to keep in the milestone? Is there a way to break it down into what we think we're going to accomplish in the next milestone?
I think I've seen CAPZ their goal would be just to come up with the proposal or the design and the milestone, and then the future milestone to actually implement it. Do we have time to even do that, or is that?
I can definitely commit to that. I can commit to putting together the proposal for here's the structure of how it would break down. Here's how we would reflect it in the specs. And yeah, I'm totally up for that. That's a great way to break it down. Thanks, Nader.
Yeah, I'd love to see the proposal go in this month. It'd be great. Cool. IPv6 is well underway, so that's good. Azure Bastion is also in progress. This one, I think I'm going to close because it doesn't make sense anymore. We've been keeping it as critical urgent for a month, which is doesn't look great. And we're not actively working on it. So I think this, yeah.
What was that one for? Was it is that for private clusters, or is that?
No, so by default, the network security groups that we create have port 22 for SSH.
Oh, I see.
And I don't think we're going to stop doing that for now until we have private clusters.
Right.
So I think we'll have to add the option and make it so that you can configure it. And actually, thanks to some work that's our Smitty, what's his first name again? Steven, not Steven. Anyway, sorry.
Spencer, I think.
Spencer, thank you. Spencer did. We now have configurable security ingress rules. So you can actually configure the rules and override the default one. So it is possible today, after the next release, it will be possible to not expose port 22. So it will be configurable, which I think is a better step. It's a first step towards that.
Completely agree.
Okay. Great. And so, yeah, and then this one, I think we still want that. I'll ping Anish about it. And then Azure CNI, I think we still want to do that. Whether we'll be able to commit to it in the next month, I'm not sure, but I think we should prioritize it. And then release documentation, I have to ask Stephen about it, but we should definitely do that ASAP. Any objections or anything in here that anyone thinks we should kick out?
Have we looked more closely at the private clusters?
Not yet, but we could. That's one of the ones we could put in here. So this is just what was there before. I'll go back and look at the next milestone next.
Yeah, maybe if we just approach it in the same way as the other enhancement proposal, and at least get kind of a doc that explains how we're going to go about it. If it is too large to actually implement, kind of to actually be able to guarantee that it will meet this milestone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. It's just that no one has really started looking at it yet. So it would just be a matter of time and getting the work done. Let's look at all the features that are there right now to do and see if we value that one more than others, if we want to push
Justin,
it.
are you interested in pursuing that proposal?
Possibly. So right now I'm under a bunch of pressure to work on some ISV stuff. And so I haven't been able to dedicate as much time to this. I'm hoping I should have some guidance maybe in 2 weeks on whether I can start spending more time over in the Azure Kubernetes space. So hopefully in 2 weeks, I should be able to potentially start spending more time over here.
So I'm going to put the ones that are in priority important soon in there for now. So this one is the refactor, which is in progress. By the way, thanks Carlos with all the help there. It's been really, really great. But yeah, so I definitely want to get that done in the next month. That's what I'm working on right now. This is also in progress. I think we want to get that in. Thinking about the resource names, I don't know if we want to do that right away, but I think it's important at some point, the sooner the better, because it might be potentially breaking. And so I think if we wait too long, we'll break more users. And so it's better to do it, like rip off the Band-Aid soon. That's my view on it, but any thoughts on that? No, okay. Machine pool takes too long to come online. I think we want to be still looking at this one. This one?
Yes, still looking and hoping to see that in a test, like so that we can start replicating that behavior and understand why it's coming up.
Perfect. Bootstrap failure detection. I think that one is really important. I don't know if that's like doable in the next month though, especially since we're in talks with CAPZ, but I think we're going to be looking into it and looking at the design in the next month. So maybe that's also one of the ones we want to break it down into enhancement proposal first as part of this milestone and then implementation later. Custom image docs, we want that. And yeah, I'm going to put ephemeral disk in there for now as well, since there is a PR open for it. So that's first round. Okay, and then now everything else, I guess, is fair game. So if anyone have any proposals like of issues that they'd like to see in this milestone or things
before we add more stuff,
yeah,
can we check if we have already like too much? Or
yes, definitely, great point. This is what we have right now. Thoughts? Too much, too little? It's 4 weeks. So that's shorter than the last one for sure.
I guess I think there's room for some more things, especially if they're more important. So we can go through the other things, and then whatever doesn't get done will get bumped to the next one.
Yeah, I think it's okay to overcommit a little bit. This is more of a guidance, not really like if we don't get everything done, it's not the end of the world, but we should definitely make it scoped enough that we don't end up having way too much and then not having focus on. And also this is more like for us to kind of like know what's priority, but it's also really hard to gauge how many people are going to be, working or contributing how many hours in the next month at any given time. So it's not like we can really accurately predict what the project overall is going to get done. And for sure, people are going to contribute features that aren't in this list. and that aren't part of the milestone, but this is more like for us, like if we like have something that, like if we don't know what to pick up next, then it should be one of these.
Yep.
So let's just take a look and see if like any of the other ones make sense to add, but I agree we're pretty close to capacity. So I'll just scroll down quickly and let me know. Oh, also in general, I prefer not adding any good first issues to the milestone, just because those are kind of, hopefully they're supposed to be like any given time you can get it done, and there's no timeline or deadline on it, because I think first time contributors, it tends to scare them away that there's a deadline on when it's due.
Yeah.
This might happen in the next milestone, actually. I think I'll add it in there. I'm not sure exactly what the timeline is on it, but.
Cool. It's just going to take my fingers a year to learn that afterwards.
It's okay. We'll get there together.
It's a good move. Yeah.
Network policies. Carlos, do you want to put that in the milestone?
Yeah, can be.
And the accelerated networking E2E could also go in the milestone, because either the PR that I have out there is on track, or else we should just skip it. So
yeah, actually, let's look at the ones that are already assigned. David, this one, should I put it in there? The tilt Azure JSON.
Oh yeah, for sure. In fact, I think there's a bit that we need to do there as well, like making sure the Azure JSON stuff just works smoothly.
No, okay, I accidentally put it. Okay, GitHub is failing on me. All right. I think add coverage, we want that. This I'm not sure if it's been actively worked on, so I'm gonna leave it for now. Oh, Nir, is that still active, or should we just close that?
Well, it's already part of the image.
Yeah. So is there anything left that needs to be done? No.
I don't think so. Oh, no, that's fine.
Cool. I'll let you close that if you don't mind. This one is a good first issue, so I'll leave it in here. And GPU nodes, I don't think this is being worked on actively. Yeah, we should consider this one at some point, maybe the next milestone. Tracing and telemetry. David, should we do anything about that for now?
So now that we have context cascading through everything, this makes tracing and metrics a lot easier, especially tracing. I don't know if it gets in this one though.
Okay.
And I'm not sure. Does anybody see this as being critical or something that we really should take on in the next milestone?
I think this one will take probably some time, so sounds like the next one maybe.
Yeah.
Like not this one, next one.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree. Let's leave it for now and make it maybe a stretch goal if we have extra time. How about Windows worker nodes? James, do you have any updates on that? Is there a proposal coming soon?
Yeah, we're working on it, but I don't know that it would get done in this milestone, but it is actively being looked at.
Okay. So maybe we'll leave the support out, but maybe we should open a separate tracking issue for the proposal and put that in the milestone.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So this is where we are. How do we feel about this?
The only other thing that I know of, there was an issue for a private cluster that Justin mentioned.
Oh,
I don't know if he wants to include that.
Where's private? Yeah. So how do we want to handle this? Do we want to separate, like open a separate issue for the enhancement proposal, or track it in here? And
Do we want to have a full enhancement proposal, or do we want to just lay out, hey, here is the path to implementation in the issue?
Yeah, I think kind of had been marked as help wanted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think maybe if we just make it a little more clear in the issue of kind of what the work actually entails, it may be a little more approachable.
Yeah, agreed. So I don't know about putting it in the milestone though. I think that's just a to-do item from the maintainers to go and clarify the issue, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in the milestone if we're not sure somebody's going to work on it, and somebody can pick it up anyway.
Or I can just comment on this and say, first step is to define what the implementation would look like, and then if someone comes here and we haven't done it yet, that way they'll know to not just like jump into it directly.
Also, are the items in the backlog stack ranked?
Sorry?
Are the items in the backlog stack ranked? Like, are they prioritized order?
No. Is there a way to do that with GitHub? Oh, you mean in the project backlog?
Right.
They're not. Where is the project backlog? Yeah, they aren't. Usually we just, I think, drag them in there.
Yeah, not that I think that that's super discoverable. Like, if somebody was just coming along to take a look at our backlog, they're probably not going to discover that. It was just perhaps might make it easier for us to do it quicker in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, ideally we would do that. There's also Triage Party that ASAD mentioned at some point that I still wanted to check out. It looks pretty fun. Yeah. What about multi-tenancy? I see that's in to do. And that's
that should be something we need to get a proposal for that. Just structure it so that how are we going to add the credentials onto cluster and start working on that stuff. Similar to how AWS is doing. Or Kappa, pardon.
So can I add that to the milestone?
Oh yeah, totally. So create proposal is there, and this should definitely get to the milestone. I forgot about it.
Okay, great. Okay, I think that's enough for now.
Yeah, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so.
Yeah. Okay.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty solid. And most of these are already assigned to, so. Anything we forgot? Any last comments, questions, feedback on the process?
It's good.
We do our best.
Yeah, and again, we'll iterate and get better at this. This is our first time doing sort of more formal planning, so.
Yeah, nice job, Matt. Thank you for leading this. And
yeah.
James and Jack, thank you for taking notes. This is
all James.
Well,
I
the
owe
idea
James
was
a note-taking session.
the idea was to spread the pain around so David and Cecile and folks aren't doing all the work, but I feel like Cecile did most of the work anyway, but we'll get better.
No, this is cool. I love having you do like the moderating, and we won't do backlog grooming every time. I also need to figure out how to give GitHub repo access to David and Nader, because I think right now I'm the only one in this meeting who has it. But yeah.
I think it's
cool.
You have to add people to some GitHub team, and then they can access.
Yeah, it's the admin, I think. I'll check. I'll look into that.
so who's up for next week? Or is it next week?
In
next
2
week.
weeks.
2 weeks.
Who's moderating? I think Nader volunteered or someone did.
I think it was Carlos then me.
Or Carlos.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Carlos is next week.
Yeah.
And that one done after that.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yay.
So we have any other anything else to mention before we ring off? Nope. Cool.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
You too.
Thank you, Matt.